LiberalViewer presents.
So last week when the guests on HBO's Real Time with Bill Maher included rising California Democratic star Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom along with a more falling Republican star, former John McCain presidential campaign senior strategist Steve Schmidt, host Bill Maher noticed some bipartisan agreement on his panel on one of his favorite issues, as you can see beginning in this clip.
I think we might have bipartisan support on this panel for legalizing marijuana. Is that the case? Are you for legalizing?
Yeah, tax and regulate. And finally, you know, it's interesting. All these years I've been sort of dancing around this medical marijuana. But, you know, finally someone asked me directly 6 months ago, and I said what I think and the right thing to do is to tax and regulate it, because the unintended consequence of this war on drugs, self-evident, abject failure.
How do you feel about that?
Now, I'm not sure I'd be applauding Gavin Newsom so loudly, given that when marijuana legalization was actually a proposition on the California ballot in 2010, he opposed legalization, but better late than never, though the lateness of many Democrats to come to supporting marijuana legalization may leave an opening for Republicans, as Bill Maher pointed out in the continuation of that clip here.
I think that the Republicans could steal this issue and make a lot of political hay with it.
It's been a total abject failure. If you're a conservative, it drives big government. It spends a lot of money on big government. And the penalties are so unevenly applied. It's not white suburban kids winding up in jail. It's African-American kids. It's unfair. It's wrong. And it's not worked. And it's time to rethink our approach to these issues.
Now, just getting Bill Maher's other guest, Snoop Lion, formerly known as Snoop Dogg, to clap for a Republican may mean that Bill Maher is onto something here, and Gavin Newsom also found his kind of Republican, as you can see in this clip.
My kind of Republican.
So you're for legalization?
Yeah, and look, and marijuana is legal in California in the same way it's legal to buy a beer in Utah 20 years ago. You got to jump through a hoop and then you can get it. So we ought to tax it, we ought to regulate it, state ought to make money on it.
And that kind of economic argument might appeal to some kinds of conservative Republicans, a theme Bill Maher tried to build on with the Buy America argument you can see here.
The Rand Corporation did a study. They said a third of the pot we smoke is homegrown, but 50%, up to 50% comes from Mexico. This is shipping green jobs overseas, right, that we could make money.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, as much as those kinds of economic arguments might appeal to some conservatives, there's always going to be those social conservatives who see marijuana as evil, as represented in the several videos I've made over the years showing conservatives on Fox News spreading disinformation about marijuana, or more recently represented by the video my Polypop colleague Steven Crowder made actually presenting this disinformation as the truth. You can see Steven Crowder's disinformation debunked in a video from one of my more liberal Polypop colleagues, Jacqueline Glenn, but as Jacqueline pointed out, Steven Crowder's video was retweeted by Republican social conservative Rick Santorum, a former and possibly future candidate for the Republican nomination for president. With Crowder, Santorum, and others in the know-nothing wing of the Republican Party more interested in demonizing drug use than having an honest discussion of the facts, their willingness to also demonize those who speak honestly about marijuana may explain the point that Gavin Newsom made back on last week's Real Time with Bill Maher in this clip.
The one thing I cannot impress upon you more at this point, the number of politicians on both sides of the aisle that agree with what Steve just said and what I'm asserting privately, but don't have the courage publicly, it's staggering. I mean, it's gotta have, what we need more than ever at this time in life is leadership. People need to lead. Stop quarreling. If you believe in something, damn it, stand up on your principle and lean in, and you'll survive with some damn integrity. You know what I think?
Now, as much as I'd like to believe that politicians might respond favorably to Gavin Newsom's call for courage on the marijuana issue, a big reason that probably won't happen may have been inadvertently provided by Snoop Lion responding to Gavin Newsom here.
Politicians like yourself who hip and understand what's going on need to put people like myself on your team. Because if we work together, then that way we communicate to the same audience as opposed to you talking to them with their back turned and me talking to them with their back turned. Now they both paying attention. Yeah. So we should try to figure something out on that.
My next chief of staff, Snoop.
Got you, brother.
I like it.
All right,
Now, despite Gavin Newsom offering Snoop the chief of staff job, I think it's the possibility of being seen as on the same team as someone like Snoop that prevents many politicians from coming out in favor of marijuana legalization in the first place, especially Republicans, which is why I don't think we'll be seeing the Republican Party steal the marijuana legalization issue anytime soon, but I want to know what you think. Can and should the Republican Party or individual Republicans favor marijuana legalization to reach out to new voters? And, on the bigger question, will more politicians who privately favor marijuana legalization show the courage to come out publicly in favor of it?
YouTube, you decide.